This will be our video on where to find things in the book and how to submit your work and where you submit your work. I have just the first page of chapter 1, and I know some of you don't have your book yet, but I have scanned chapters 1, 2, and 3, a PDF, and put that in Canvas. It looks like everybody's been in Canvas, at least to look at something. I did send out a couple reminders for questions 1 and questions 2 to this class and to my evening class, just to say those were actually due today. Now, I'm a little lenient, probably more than I am for the rest of the semester, the first time we have to turn something in. Maybe that's our new student. Maria? Okay, just grab a seat. We're going over where to find things in the book and where to submit, and then I'll catch you up later, okay? All right, so on your assignment sheet, I try to be very specific about what you're turning in and where you're turning it in. First week, I always think you have more to do than the rest of the weeks because we had to read chapter 1 and do the questions for chapter 1, do the homework for chapter 1, and then we also needed to read and do the questions for chapter 2 because we're going to have that lecture today. So there's a little bit more reading in the first week than what you normally have. I like for you to do the questions before we have the lecture. So that gives you just a little indication about what the material is going to cover, right? And even if you haven't read let's say it's chapter 2 today, if you're looking for the questions and the answers to those, at least you're looking at part of that chapter, all right? So there's a method to my crazy madness with how I do the assignments for you. The first week, here was our agenda that we covered in class, and this is what I wanted you to do before we came to class today. Email Mrs. Mallon in Canvas. Most of you did that when we got into Canvas the first time. All right, the second thing, and you could check that off if you want to because I have little check boxes there. I'm a checker-offer. I might make a checker-offer out of you too. All right, I think it's easy. I keep a to-do list in my office all the time. I feel like I've accomplished something when I can scratch it off. All right, I've already completed that. So, and there's just so many things that you'll have to do for all of your classes. You might just become a checker-offer. The second thing was to complete the introduction in Canvas, and I think everybody's done that except Maria because she just got into Canvas. So I'll need to catch her up there. And comment on at least 2 other, and I think one place I put 3. I haven't been consistent with that. So just comment. That's the only way you're going to get to know people in here, especially with a truly online class. I love reading those discussions from my online students. Some of them are talking about me. I can see all those discussions. It's been good comments, but a couple times they've said she hates late work, and I really do. I hate it. And I think I emailed them to say that I hated it. All right, the next thing was to purchase your book with the working papers and my accounting lab code. With my accounting lab code, you get an e-book with that, and that's where we're going to do some of our problems. A USB thumb drive, and we don't need that yet, but we'll need it when we get ready to do Peachtree, Sage, a ream of 20-pound paper, and that's, you've seen some people turning that in already, a ruler, a calculator, a eraser, and a 3-ring binder because our book is drilled. It has 3 holes in it. It's the cheapest way that book comes. You just need a binder to put it in. Then I had you read chapter 1. We already covered the lecture for 1 and we did the demo in class. If you felt a little lost, there's a recording of that in Canvas, the lecture, also the demonstration problem, and those pages are in there if you want to print those off and do them again. And you can do that in Canvas. And then if you want to check those, we can check those in class. Usually I do a check on the demo for a homework grade. So if you're absent and you need to do that demo at home, make sure you bring me those papers in case I took a grade on it. You don't want to be missing a homework point. Right? Then we're going to complete the Chapter 1 discussion questions in critical thinking ethical case using complete sentence, submit in Canvas, and include your name. So those questions are at the back of the book, and we didn't really go through where everything is in the book, so let me find those questions so I can show you what they look like. And sometimes my page number isn't the same as yours. There were 15 questions for Chapter 1, and they happen to be on page 25. So our first question was, what are the functions of accounting? And I've asked you not to write the question. I know that you can copy that and write it. I want you to incorporate the question into the answer so that you get to practice your writing skills. When Toyota first came here and they were looking for employees, they said that people in San Antonio could not write a simple memo. I think that's sad. And if I'm having students to graduate with an accounting technology degree or a certificate, I want to make sure that you can write. So I like the complaint when I get an evaluation from my students at the end of the semester that says she makes us write too much. When you take some of my other classes, you'll be writing a memorandum for part of your answers instead of just using complete sentences. In here, what are the functions of accounting? That first question, the answer would be the functions of accounting are, and then you could make an enumerated list if you wanted to, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or you could write it in a paragraph, but I'm going to be looking for those answers. A sentence starts with a capital letter and ends with some type of terminal punctuation, a period, a question mark, an exclamation mark. Now, I don't like to have to remind people of that, but you would not believe how I get some things turned into me. That sounded like it went off, didn't it? But it's still recording. All right, so those are just reminders on how you're going to do your questions. Number them for me so I can find them, but make it so that you could go back and review that for the test. And if you just have the answer, then you don't even know what I was asking. All right, you had 15. The last one is usually an ethical question. Accounting the ethics of accounting is it's just so important. So they're just asking you to form an opinion and to write a comment there. So it just makes you think, is this something that's legal or something that's illegal when we talk about accounting? So the last question is usually that. Sometimes that last question goes on to the next page, so always flip the page and look for it. I don't know who typesets their book, but sometimes they don't put a page break in the place where I would put a page break. So that's at the very back of the chapter where you're going to find those questions. All right, and I even told you that you're going to submit it in Canvas. Under Chapter 1, there's a place that says Questions, Chapter 1 Questions, I think. Log into that in Canvas, submit an assignment. You can either copy and paste it in there as a text, or you can upload this file if you've saved it in Word. Okay? Questions about the questions? No? Okay, and I hope everybody found them, but I did have some really strange text messages just from Tuesday asking me about where things were. All right, so let's look at the next thing you did. Review the Chapter 1 summary, and that's at the back of every chapter. It says Chapter Summary. Also on the PowerPoint for the chapter, the last few slides, remember I just showed it to you, I didn't read those. It just says chapter summary. Highlights of the chapter, good places for me to find questions for the test, so it's a good place for you to go and review. It's just doing another check to say, did you learn those things? The key terms, it just tells you what page they're on. The vocabulary isn't just in a glossary at the very end of the chapter. You kind of have to look through the chapter to see that. Then I asked you to log into my accounting lab, and I did have a couple of questions about where to find things in my accounting lab. I opened every problem, every exercise in my accounting lab, but how many did I grade on chapter 1? 3. B1, B3, and B5. Right, that's all I'm going to grade, but you could have worked the problems, the numbers are different from the book, the exercise numbers are different from the book, because I'm using the 12th edition of my accounting lab, because I want to have you look at all of those exercises and problems in the chapter, and the 13th edition doesn't include all of them. Jason.
I got a little confused at the beginning watching that screen on my accounting lab. There's the similar to on the left
yes,
side
and let me go over where you're going to find it. So when you open up my accounting lab, over to the left, is anybody in it? Okay. Over to the left, I wish we could put that up there. It just says course home at the top, and then if you'll go down to where it says chapter resources, and then you'll see all of the chapters. We're doing chapter 1. Click on chapter 1. And then over to the right, it says do chapter homework. Click on chapter homework. And then you can look at all. There's a little tab where you can show all or just look at that chapter. And then come down to the assignment and click on the blue that's underlined that says chapter 1 homework. They all come up. Now, you don't have to do all of those. I'm only looking at 3. But the more practice you do in accounting, especially at the very beginning, just to reinforce increase, decrease, what accounts did I use, you can do all of those if you want to. Which ones am I grading? For chapter 1, I did the B1, B3, and B5. And it should have an E beside it, and it should say book static. That's the one that's coming from the 12th edition of the book. Your numbers are a little different in the 13th edition. The company name might be the same. They didn't do very many changes, I think. It was just selling a new book, putting in new pictures, but I'm not happy with my accounting lab. Haven't emailed Jeffrey Sater yet, but I probably will. I want you to have access to all of those. Do you need to do all of them? No. But it's a good tool because it gave you immediate feedback as to whether you got it correct or not. So you can do the similar to on the problems before you actually do the problems if you want to. You could also do the real problems, the book static ones, the ones that have the P in front of them for the problems. So we just happen to do 1, 3, and 5 in the problems and the exercises. That's not always the case in all the other chapters. So if you have completed those, under the E, B1, B3, B5, you should have a green check mark that you completed those. If you haven't, now you know where you need to go. I'm not grading those yet. Again, I'm probably more lenient these first couple of weeks because you're figuring out how particular I really am. All right. If you don't get all of those answers correct, it tells me what percent you got correct. Let's say they were 4 points and you only got 3 of those points correct. Then I just reduce your grade. It's not worth that 1 point in your homework for your exercises if you've missed that. Could you do the similar to problem first? Yes. Because it doesn't let you redo that exercise until you get it perfect. It's taking off points. It's telling me that it took you several times to get it correct. Okay? So I'm only looking at those 3 exercises. I probably will grade those next week. I probably won't grade them this week. I'm still emailing people in my online classes to say you missed the due date on Sunday at midnight for things. So I see you all, so I can tell you when I'm going to be grading your work. All right, then the next thing we had to do was complete the problems 1B1, 1B3, and 1B5. I don't know that I brought my, oh I did. So at the back of chapter 12, you have to go all the way to the back of chapter 12. You have what I call the working papers. And it's like a newspaper print. And it's just all of the pages. And you have an A set and you have a B set. In the fall, I do the A. In the spring, I do the B. So you have exercises first and demonstration problem. There's the exercises for B. And then the problems for B, the A's are first. And there's the forms for set B problems. So we did this problem 1, we skipped 2. You could do number 2 if you wanted to. I'm only giving you the minimum of what I want to grade. You can do all of the problems if you want to. I'll make a note in my grade book that you did them all, but I'm only looking for 3. You would not have a life if I assigned all of these problems. So I try to pick out the best problems and try to be, I guess, thoughtful of how much time each one is supposed to take you. You probably spend as much time outside of class that you're spending in class. Most weeks I'll give you some lab time to do some of that homework. All right? The B5 in chapter 1 is exactly like your test that we'll take on chapters 1 and 2. We'll have an expanded accounting equation, and then we'll have an income statement, a statement of owner's equity, and a balance sheet. I think they also had you do a balance sheet for the prior month on that one. So they had you do 2 balance sheets. Sometimes more is better in here with the exercises. I'm not giving you 2 balance sheets on the test, just 1. Do we have any questions so far? Ask me, because somebody else that's watching the video that maybe missed the first part of the class has the same question. All right, so we're down to here. Take the chapter 1 quiz in Canvas. And I just need for you to take the quiz for 1 and 2 before we take the test for 1 and 2. And it's not until week after next. Right? Sometimes that quiz, you'll get a better score on it if you'll wait until we finish all of the homework and I do the little review of the chapter, and then you take that quiz. I have it on here that it's due here. I probably won't grade it until right before we take the test. You only get 1 time to do it. It's called a 10-minute quiz. I gave you 15 minutes, and I've seen some 100s already. You can use your book. It's open notes. Jason, do you have a question?
Yes, I was going to ask, when I took the quiz last night, the part of the page was like cut in half. I only saw like half of the statements.
In Canvas?
Yeah. And the screen itself was on full screen. Once the quiz was taken, the results were...
Would you take it in? Were you in Internet Explorer?
Yeah. Was it, but not here. I was at
Okay, but I wouldn't use Internet Explorer for Canvas. It does not like Canvas. I would take the quiz, I would use Firefox or Chrome. Internet Explorer just has not kept up with the times with other websites, especially Canvas.
I have to double check, because I know, like in my other courses, I can see the rest of it on the other
Yeah,
quizzes and tests.
I just wouldn't use Internet Explorer.
Okay.
Now, the new Internet Explorer, which is called, what's it called? Not Flash, what's it called? Microsoft something. Edge. Edge, what a name. I can't remember it. I don't know whether it will work any better. I don't have Edge on my computer yet. I like Chrome for Canvas, and that's where I create things in Canvas, so it probably works better with Chrome, but Firefox works just as well. I only have Firefox in here. I don't have Chrome. So it could have been Internet Explorer. On Quiz 2, see if it's any better. Just don't use Internet Explorer. So that's a good question. So the quiz, again, you have 15 minutes to do it, and you can use your notes, you can use your book, right? Then I also had you read chapter 2, I had you look at the summary, I had you do the questions for chapter 2, and then I also had you complete what's called a smarter measure. And I have the link in Canvas. It is just a little test that tells you and me how tech savvy you are. And there's a place in Canvas to submit that. I suggest you save it, because when you take my Peachtree Sage or my QuickBooks class, or you take 1304, I'm asking you to do it again. So if you've already taken it, then I would just save that and you can upload it. I save all those Smarter Measure emails, so when you take me in another class and you say, I did that in this class, I can go back and look at that email and see the results. So I don't want you to do it again, bless you, but there is a place for you to upload that. I think the true report is about 25 pages long. Also, you just printed off the report part.
That was just a summary.
Right, the summary, but I think it's 25 pages long. It tells you what you missed, it tells you how fast you type, what your accuracy is. If you're looking for an entry-level job, sometimes it's 40 words a minute with a high % of accuracy. So if you have a 90, 95, or 100 on that accuracy for typing, that's a good score. I like to see that typing speed, because if you're my online student and you can't type, it's going to take you longer to answer the questions than it is for everybody else, isn't it, that can type? So if you're in an online class, I need to know this person can type or can't type, and I don't have to ask that question. I can just see it in that score. Right, so it's really, it's for you to see how tech savvy you are, but it's also for me to see whether it's going to take you longer to do your assignments.
Well, I think on that, when I was taking it, they have the average typing at 28 words a minute. Like there's a small class they give you.
Yeah,
If you do
I
that,
know.
It's not.
And you can't hit the enter key. I think you just do the word wrap. So you just have to read the directions on how to do it. But a lot of jobs will ask you to take a typing test. They want to know. And do we teach typing anymore? We do here. So if you don't know how to type, I can help you when it comes to summer classes to pick a class that you could learn how to type. I don't teach that class anymore, but somebody in my department does. All right, so this is what you should have completed for chapter 1, or for week 1, and now we're ready for week 2, and that's what we're going to do today. So if you don't have all of these finished, let's wait and pick up homework on Thursday. And the only thing that if you have it today, I might add extra points to it. So if you have it today, you can put it in the green basket and stamp it before you put it in there. Make sure your name's on there and that it's in order. And I'm going to show you something about stapling. All right, this is a true story. One of my professors, when I was at Virginia Tech, was an engineer, and I'll have to put it up here. If you stapled your paper straight like this, or you stapled it down like this, it got thrown in the trash. Now, I'm not going to do that, but I'll probably write you a little note to make it easy for me to grade. Staple up here and put it at an angle. A couple years ago, we had a new copier, and the copier stapled straight. Well, what happens, if you're an engineer, you know when you pull this, the pages are going to come apart if it's stapled straight. So when it's stapled at an angle, when you flip the pages, it flips so that it doesn't tear. I also had an instructor that would say your report is due, but if you put it in a folder, I don't want it in a folder, it makes my stack from this high to this high when you put it in a folder. If you had it in a folder and he said no folder, guess where your report went? In the trash. He didn't even grade it. So an easy way to grade, thank you, an easy way to eliminate having to grade when you have very crazy rules like that, I'm not going to do that to you. And remember, I told you in my accounting class at Virginia Tech, we had 2 grades, the midterm and the final. That's all. We had homework, but it never got graded, it never got picked up, it never even got looked at, but I had to do it or I couldn't pass the test. So I grade just about everything that we do in here, and I try to give you feedback as quickly as I can. So if I'd picked up everybody's homework today, I would have given that back on Thursday. There's a lot of people turning in their homework now, so I'm going to make that more than just 1 point for your homework today. So I appreciate you staying current with what was due today. Any questions before I turn off the camera? I think I covered everything with where we're going to submit work. No questions? All right, bye.